Yeah, so yesterday which we were trying to understand that is about CI/CD pipeline. That is a high level understanding that. So what are the main stages and the steps that we will be having that, and what are the different tools that we are going to use it that. Yeah, that is in the CI/CD, and about yes, monolithic application based approach and container based application approaches. Yeah, these are all the points that's which we should know it. I will come back to understanding those things. Then we had that. The one more point about it, that is the pipeline with the flow diagram also. Yeah, in case the stage got successful, then we need to promote to the next stage, or in case the stage failed, then we need to stop it and we need to send the email notifications. Yeah, the overview of that demo, whatever we are understanding, that's we had it, the word there. Now let's move into that, the next concept. One of the important tool which we should know, that is version controlling tool. So which we are going to have it, that is Git and GitHub. But what is the importance of this version controlling tool? Why do we need this? So is it a mandatory tool in the process or not for the DevOps engineers? Not only DevOps engineers, yes. So DevOps engineer, we are going to provide the solutions for the team, right? That is development teams problems, testing teams problems, and operation engineers, what are the problems they have? Those problems we are providing the solutions. Yeah, what about this version controlling tool and the importance of this version controlling tool? So let's move into this to understand that point. So in this version controlling tool concept, we are going to divide that all these concepts into 3 sections: without version controlling tool and with version controlling tool. And then finally, understanding that. So what is the usage of that? Or why do we need it? Suppose without version controlling system, can we expect the development environment or not? Can we expect the development environment without version controlling tool? And we call this one as a source code management tool also. The source code repository. Version control. This application is going to have the different versions. But all those versions, how do we control it or how do we manage it? That's why we say the version controlling. But in the normal, in our process yesterday, which we had it, source code repository. Source code repository or version controlling tools, they're all the same things. Suppose if the development team, they are not using the version controlling systems, then what's going to happen that? What's going to happen that? So as we were understanding yesterday, let me show that the diagram. Yeah, if you understand this diagram, so we'll be handling only one developer or multiple developers?
Multiple developers.
Yes, multiple developers are going to work with that. But all these developers, so end of the day, their project code, they need to commit to that one central repository. That's the code repository. Suppose you are not using this code repository, what are the challenges? So how do we share that the developer's code? Suppose developer 1, whatever the code he has implemented, maybe that code is required for the developer 3. Or a developer 3 code, whatever he is implementing, maybe that is required as a dependency for the developer 2. So how do you distribute the code among the development team? So if you're not going to use it, this code repository, is it possible to manage it? Sharing the code among the development?
Not at all.
Yeah, that is not at all. And suppose if you're not going to use it, this code repository, so what is the other solution? Yes, we have the file sharing option. Yes, we can use it. Another option, file sharing. Suppose I didn't use the code repository and my project is using that, some file share system, that is NFS. Suppose like a Dropbox we have, or Google Drive we have, that is also file sharing, right?
Yeah.
I can upload the file and you can, if I give the permission to you, you also can download it. Suppose if you use it like that, that's kind of the file sharing approach. Then maybe I have uploaded the file to that file sharing system. Maybe you can delete it, right? Maybe you have deleted, but how do you recover back? So that is going to delete in all the devices or not?
Of course, yeah.
Right, it is going to delete all the devices. If it is deleted all the devices, then you don't have the backup and we lost the data.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah. And as well as one more important point is, so especially in these versioning options, suppose I'm the developer one, and I have updated some code at 10 a.m. and same file I have updated at the 12 o'clock some content. That means between the 10 to 12, I have one content, and before the 10 a.m., I have another content. And between the 12 to 5, again, I have been working on the same file. That means another content I have that. But if I need that backup, before the 10 a.m. one backup, and between the 10 to 12, whatever I have implemented as separate backup, and after the 12 p.m., 12 to that's 5 p.m., whatever I have implemented as separate backup. In the normal file system, how do you manage it? Is it possible? That is possible. But what do you need to do? Please mute.
Hi, mates, please mute yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, I muted. Yeah. Yes, 10 o'clock up to that, the file, we need to take the backup. If we're going to edit that, 10 o'clock, I need to have the backup. One file. And between the 10 to 12, whatever I have done, I need to take that one more backup file. And after that's 12 to, yes, 12 o'clock to 5 p.m., whatever the content I have, another backup, like a total 3 backups. Like that every day, if you're doing that multiple changes, and each and every time taking the backup and using that, a lot of effort is required, right? So are you getting the points on this? So importance of the version controlling tools. So, I mean, in the normal file system, we can use it, share the file system, we can do that. But challenges we have, what are the challenges? How do you track the history of the changes? Is morning 10 o'clock what I have done, 12 o'clock what I have done, or 5 p.m. whatever I have done. If you would like to track that all those changes, that is not possible in the normal file system. Yes, maybe you can share the files, but tracking is important. And history of the files is very, very important. The same file, multiple copies you will be having. Morning 10 o'clock one file, 12 o'clock another file, 5 o'clock one another file. File is same, but different versions of the content. So how do we handle all these things is, So this tool is going to help with that. That is version controlling tools. We'll call it version controlling. The name itself is saying that 10 o'clock one version, 12 o'clock another version, and 5 p.m. another version. Yes, version controlling tools are helping. But these version controlling tools, we can call it as a source code repositories. Yeah, if you're not using the version controlling tools, yes, if you have the 100 developers, yes, among that's all the development team, file sharing is challenging. No history. You can share the files, but no history, no security. As we are talking, that's like one member has deleted the file, then it will be deleted in all the devices if it is a normal file sharing. And no tracking. So who has done what he has done, at what time the modification has been done. So tracking that's information is also the very, very important. And maintenance issues, backup issues, that is a disk space. Yes, 3 files you have taken, the backup is nothing but, let's say, assume that each file, suppose 1 MB. File is the same, but just in the KB's point of view, you are going to take the 3 MB is a backup. 10 o'clock, one file backup. 12 o'clock, one more file backup, that is 1 more MB. And 5 p.m. another backup, that is 1 more MB. No. Yeah. So file sharing is the challenge.
Hi, Venki. Please mute yourself.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so file sharing is the challenging. So among the development team. So if you are not using the version controlling tool, so now you got that advantage of this version controlling tool. So all those disadvantages, that's we can have it as the advantages by using that version controlling tool. Yeah, what is the version controlling tool? Is a repository of the files with mounted access. Yes, so it is going to keep on tracking that. So who is accessing the files, who is modifying the files, at what time it has been modified, what he has modified, or if anyone deleted the file, yes, who has deleted, when it was deleted, everything it can be tracked. So that is the beauty of this version controlling tool. It is helping the version tracking and collaboration and sharing the files among the team. And you will be having that historical information from the day one when it was created, the project created the day one onwards, you can have the complete history information. Suppose the project was created 3 years back. So from the day one, whatever the starting time or when it was started, so from that time onwards, we can track it, complete history of the files. And retrieving the past versions. Yes, you can go back to the previous versions and you can retrieve back that the code, the past versions of the code, and you can manage the branches. Branch is kind of the directories, different directories, which will come back. But what is the branches and how to create a branch? That is activities we are going to learn it. These are the activities. Yeah, finally, so that is the importance of the version controlling tool. Yes, without the version controlling tool, we don't expect any environment, development environment especially. We don't expect any project. But what are the different version controlling tools are available in the market is, yes, we have the CVS, SVN, Git, Perforce, Mercurial. They're all the different, so many tools are available. But main tools, remember that SVN and Git. SVN and Git. But SVN, that is a old architecture, and Git is the latest architecture. Git is, everyone is using that. But some point they will ask that what is the difference between the SVN and Git? So we'll come back to that. So what is the difference between the SVN and Git? We'll come back to that. Yes, why do we use that version controlling tools? Now we got it. Yes, in code development, a version controlling system is at this point almost mandatory. So multiple developers working on the more than one project, yes. So don't think that the one developer only one project, maybe he's working for the multiple projects. But whenever he is working for the particular project, that project code he has to upload it to the version controlling system. And must be able to roll back to the previous versions. Yes, it should support it. Yeah, must be able to tag releases and milestones. Yes, you need to track it off at all the releases. But what is that release concept and how do you track it and how do you define the tags and how do you manage the branches? These are all the concepts which you are going to learn it from the version controlling tool. Yeah, as we are understanding that different version controlling tools are available in the market. That is especially SVN and Git. But why? I mean, why we have those these like the SVN and Git as the main tools we are talking the C's on the base of the architecture. So whenever we are working with the version controlling tools, we see that two types of the version controlling tools. One is server based. There is a client and server architecture. Yes, some version controlling tools uses the client and server architecture, and some version controlling tools are using that distributed version controlling tool architecture. Yeah, on the base of the architecture of the tool, then we categorize it. Is it a server based or is it a distributed? But what is the difference between the server based and distributed? And out of these two, which one is recommended? And which tools comes under server based and which tools comes under distributed based? If you try to conclude those points, server based, the CVS, SVN, Perforce, these tools comes under server based version controlling tools. Almost no one is using these tools, and you don't hear also. But yes, some environments whenever you join it. So mostly we see that SVN. Still some projects are using, but most of the projects, they are migrating to that latest version controlling tool, that is a distributed version controlling tool, that is Git. Everywhere we hear the Git these days. But before the Git, it was SVN or CVS. CVS is a before to the SVN. Yeah, latest architecture, which were the distributed version controlling tools, the Git is available, and we have some other tools like Mercurial. But Git is a famous one. Yeah, on the base of the architecture of the tool, which is designed internally, we categorize it. Version controlling tools, that is server-based and distributed. Server-based is nothing but this is a client and server architecture like Apache server, if you understand it. Apache server is a client and server, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes, that is once it is Apache is installed in the server, then we are using the browser to access that the Apache URL. That is a client and server architecture. So SVN is going to use it client and server architecture. And Git is going to use the distributed version controlling tool architecture. What is the distributed? It is like as a file synchronization between a repository to the developer system. Yeah, let's look into that architecture. Don't get confusion in it. Yeah, client and server architecture is, yes, we will be having that like a remote repository. That is SVN or CVS or the Perforce. It should be centralized, right? Somewhere centralized. Like Apache, you are going to access nothing, but you need to have that one EC2 instance and Apache has to be set up it. Then you can use the browser. If the network is allowed, you can use the browser and you can access the Apache service to access the applications. The same way, the client and server architecture, that is SVN, if you talk it, SVN is going to run it on the Apache itself. So, and this repository, we say that this is a remote repository, but the developer, what he has to do? So the project code is available in the centralized repository. So he has to use it, some kind of like a client tools, like a browsers, and he has to connect it to this remote repository through the network, and they need to get the code. Code is managed at remote repository. That is an Apache server. But on the Apache, we'll be having some modules like SVN. So SVN is a server which is running on the remote, and the developers who needs that the code, they can connect it to that's SVN server using that URLs, and they can get the code to their developer system, and they can start working on it, and they can commit the code to the repository. Commit is nothing but saving the files from their workspace to the repository. Suppose if I'm the developer, the first I join to the project. First, I need to get the existing project, right? I should not start the new project. So already project is there. And management team, they need to give the credentials to access this repository. Once the credentials are available, I'll connect to the server and I will get that existing project to my local system. That's we say that my workspace, working environment. And once my working copy is available, then I can use the editors and I can modify the code and I can commit the code to the repository. Committing is nothing but I'm saving my local files to this repository, within this repository. By saving this in the repository, what is that advantage? Other developers, they can get the code. Or other developer, they can push the code. And I also can update the code, other developers' code. So this is my working copy. From my working copy, I can commit the code. So this is a client and server architecture. So everything is centralized. But what is the disadvantage here it is? Suppose I joined the project and these two developers already working with this repository and I just joined. But credentials to get it to this repository, it is going to take it some 2 days or 3 days. Because we need to get all the approvals, right? Management team, yes, it is going to take it some time. Meanwhile, yeah, so sorry. Yeah, meanwhile, the management team, they're asking us, boss, continue thus working with that and you will get it the credentials within the next 2 days. So please keep on continue that's working on it. But how do I get the code? Because the credentials I don't have. Can I take these developers to code and can I start working on it? So that is not possible. So in this client and server architecture, so you have the completely depending on the central repository. In case the central repository, because of the networks or because of some issues, if this is down, then you don't have the distribution from the other developers' code. You cannot take it because this is having the only working copy. This is not the repository copy. Repository copy contains complete history information, previous commits and everything. It is going to store it in the repository. But in the working copy, only like implementation files. Suppose Java files, if I'm implementing, so only Java files I will be having. But Java files history doesn't have this in the working copy. Where you will be having the history and complete tracking information that is in the repository. but developer system is not having repository, only central server. If the central server is reachable, we are okay. But if this is down, then we lost everything. So that is a dependency we have that. So this is not that much distributed. This is not distributed. Is it clear about that client and server architecture disadvantages?
Yes, sir.
Yes, understood clearly.
Yeah, and one more point here, what do I have is, so developer once has, if I'm the developer, once code has been modified, and as operations point of view, we'll call it as a, if I'm going to commit the code to the repository, we call this one as a check-in, I'm checking the code.
Check out.
And other developers who needs that update, they need to check out the code. Check in, check out, we use the keywords in client and server architecture, because from the working copy directly we're committing to the remote repository. So this is a check-in, that is from the developer to the repository, check out, repository to the developer system. Yeah, this is some kind of the old architecture, but we should know it. We should know it, because if you join this the existing projects, that like they are going to use it, the SVN, and you should get familiar with that internal architecture, how that would be. But distributed architecture, how they have come up with this is, yeah, so here also remote repository, obviously. And this repository, this remote repository, we call it as a bare repository also. Bare repository or bare remote repository. But what are the different tools are available in the market? If you talk it like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, AWS Code Commit, Azure Repo. So whenever we hear these keywords or these tools, if the client is going to use it, is nothing but that is about remote repositories. But once the remote repository is available, then developers, how they can get it, the code is. Yeah, obviously network is required. Suppose if I'm the developer, I joined that to the project and they are using some GitHub or GitLab, Bitbucket, some tool. So first I need to get the code to my developer system, right? So what is that operation we do is we'll clone it. So the clone that remote repository, then we will get it. Whenever we clone it, remote repository, whatever we have, same copy that is going to replicate in our developer system. So that is a difference. If you just observe the client and server, and distributed is remote repository, whatever the copy we have, same copy that is managed in the developer system. This repository we say the local repository, and this one we say that bare or remote repository. But how the developer can edit the files or how the developer can create a new files is we'll be having the working copy. In the SVN, how do we have the working copy? Same working copy, but working copy to the local repository and the local repository to the remote repository. Here the process what we'll be having is, if the developer has modified any code or he has created new files or he has updated any files, so what is the process to update to the remote repository is, first he has to commit to the local repository, which is available on his developer system itself. And once it is updated to the local repository, then only you can push to the remote repository. Here we are talking about it push operation.
Okay, from local to repository, client repository, right?
Yeah, local to remote repository. Yes, exactly.
Sir,
Yeah.
small doubt, sir. Committing the code means sending the code or sharing the code? What is
No,
the
no, no. Commit is nothing but you are updating to the database.
Okay.
Here Git database.
Commit means updating.
Yeah, saving the file. Suppose if you open the file and if you use it Control S, that is saving the file, right?
Yes.
So where you are, how you are going to save it is from working copy you can save it, but how do you update to the repositories? We need to commit it.
Okay.
Commit is nothing but yes, from the working copy it is going to save the file in the repository. That is local repository. It is updating to the database. And from the local repository to the remote repository, that's we say the push. So push the files from the local to remote. This is kind of the synchronizing the data. And I'm the developer. I have pushed the code to the remote repository. But other developers, if they would like to get it, they need to pull the code. Pull. Here we say that, I mean, in client and server architecture, we say that check-in, check-out. Check-in from the developer to the remote repository. And checkout is other developer, they can get the update. But in the distributed version controlling tools, we say that push, that is from the developer repository to the remote repository. And pull, that is from the remote repository to the developer system. So here finally the conclusion is on each developer system, we'll be having the local repository and working copy. But this local repository will be synchronized to the remote repository. Finally, end of the day, you need to manage it in the remote repository. But directly workspace to this repository, there is no concept here. We'll be having the local repository. That's point of view, we say this is the distributed. Suppose even in case this remote repository is down, the complete whatever the latest update you have, that is everything you have this in the developer system also. Even if you lost it, yes, you can use it this local repository and you can create one more remote repository and you can push that, the code. So this is more reliability if you talk about it. But if it is SVN server is down, then we lost the complete history of the repository. Yeah, have got the difference between the SVN and Git. Now, if you conclude that SVN is going to use the client and server architecture, and that is a centralized architecture. If the central server is down, there is no distribution or there is no repository. But here in the distributed version controlling system, we'll be having the local repository and the remote repository. Local and remote always will be synchronized. But how do we synchronize it? By using the push and pull operations. Push is from the local repository to the remote repository. Pull is from the remote repository to the local repository. And the developer's environment is working copy. Developer, whatever he is modifying or editing the files, everything he has to first commit it to the, save to the local repository. Then once he has updated to the local repository, then he can push to the remote repository. But what are the different remote repositories are available in the Git model is GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, AWS Code Commit, Azure Repo. So there are all the tools which are available as we can use it as a remote repository. But how to manage it, the local repository and working copies is we need to install the Git software. Yeah, Git is client tool that is about our developers tool, which we use it to manage about our working copy and the local repository. But these local repositories, we don't keep it in the local systems and we will manage it in the remote repository. That remote repository, we take it from the GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. Is it clear these points?
The repository, can we like use an S3 bucket or something like that and we install some software?
Yeah, you can use it S3 also.
Okay.
S3 with the versioning option, we were talking this, right?
Yes.
If you have enabled S3 bucket with the versioning option, yes, you can upload the files and you can download it. But that is not that much flexible. So we have that separate I mean, in the release process, especially tags to manage it, branches to manage it. Yes, this is recommended.
Okay. So now since you told AWS has provide a separate service as a bucket, version control bucket, but in a legacy environment, if we use an NAS share or a SanDisk thing, so then we have to install a GitHub or GitLab software on that particular repository and use it as a repository.
Yeah, I mean, like we can use it that is Git. Suppose if we have this like virtual machine and where it is shared the amount points, yes, we can use it. The Git lab about our own the environment we can set up and we can use it. But this Git, especially which is helping about it, source code to store it.
Okay. It is something like again like a cloud. We have to purchase it. GitHub and GitLab.
Yeah, it is kind of, yes. Like the suppose if I go for the GitHub, some third party Microsoft team they are providing to us, where you can subscribe with that, and you can create a repository and you can use it. That repository where you will be getting that all the high availability features, distribution features, and you can add the collaborators like to give the permissions who can access it, who cannot access it. That is ready-made one.
Okay.
But if you would like to set up about your own infrastructure in your own private networks, yes, you can set up that. You can download the GitLab or GitHub software, and you can launch how we are launching that Apache service. Yes, you can launch it the GitLab also. Are you clear this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Yeah, but Git, the mainly storing point of view, which we use it, source code. But if you have those any artifacts like the released files is nothing but binary files or output files. So those to store it, we don't use the Git. We use the Nexus repository. That is, I'll come back. Nexus is artifacts to manage it, but Git or GitHub, these will be used the source file. Okay, so that is about distributed architecture. So remember that local repository will be having a remote repository. Remote repository, yes, we can manage it about our own server, or we can approach the third-party providers, which we can take it and we can use it the ready-made as a high availabilities and the load management, security management. Yes, that's providers are providing, and which we can take it and we can subscribe to them, like how we are subscribing to that AWS cloud. Yes, we can approach these third-party providers and we can use the ready-made repository. Or if you need that high security, then you need to plan it about your own, setting up the paid repositories or remote repositories. But remote repository, where it is there doesn't matter for us. So this is required to understand it. If you know this concept, that is, see, as like a DevOps engineer, we are going to work with the Terraform scripts or the Docker files or the shell scripts or Ansible scripts or Kubernetes. But all these are files whenever we are working with that. So the repository is in the GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, doesn't matter that. We should know this working process model. Yeah, how do I, once that's my file is ready, how do I commit to the local repository? And from there, how do I need to synchronize to the remote repository? But this remote repository, is it the local based repository or remote based repository from third-party provider? Doesn't matter for us. That is just a URL link with some credentials and with the permissions. Okay, good. So that is about understanding the difference between the client and server based architecture and the distributed version controlling architecture, and the latest everything distributed version controlling tool. There is no option of the client and server. Even the client and server, if you have any projects, those projects also moving to the distributed. That is a final conclusion from it. Yeah, repository versus working copy. Working copy is developers one and the repository is remote one. And working copy in the client and server architecture, we say that check-in, check-out operations. And in the distributed version controlling architecture, we say that push and pull operations. Yeah, that is a push and pull. Some terminology is understanding that. Yeah, now let's move into the Git. Now we are starting the Git. So far we understand just importance of the version controlling tools and what are the different tools are available in the market and which one or why do we need to go for that distributed version controlling tools in the market. Finally, we are going to look into Git. But what is a Git is? Yes, this is the repository which helps to create repositories. And it is helping to manage the versions of the code. Yeah, different versions of the same artifact can be stored as we are talking about it. Suppose I have that hello world.java file. But the Java file I have modified at 10 a.m. and I have modified some content between the 10 to 12. And then I have saved it. Then 10 to 12, 10 to 5, 12 to 5, I have modified some content. That means they're all the different versions. So those different versions of the same artifact. Artifact here it is nothing but hello world.java file, that Java file, or what other file you are working. So it can be stored the different artifacts. But what is that artifact? Artifact is that is changes what you are applying that which file you are applying the changes. That file we can say that artifact. And you can do the comparison also. Yes, 12 o'clock file you can take it and compare with the 10 o'clock file. Then you will be having that what is the modification we have this between the 10 to 12. So comparison of the files. And collaboration. Yes, you can share the files to the other team members. Yeah, there are like features that we are going to have it. But when it was the launched, the Git is in 2005. And it is an open source tool. And it is a platform independent. That means installing the Git on the Linux or the Windows or Unix based operating system or Mac based operating system, little bit different installation. But once installation is done, Git commands, whatever we are going to learn it, Git commands are the same. That's why we said that the platform independent. And this is the distributed version controlling system. And you can do that installation on the Windows or the Linux or Unix operating system. So how do you do the Git installation? Already you have installed the Git, right?
Yes, sir. While starting the Linux, we can use the vagrant.
Yes.
Inside of, yeah.
Good. How many of you done that Git bash installation?
Sir, we are.
Yes, you have done the Git bash installation is nothing but Git is installed on the Windows. So how do we install the Git on the Windows is nothing but from the gitscm.com. Yeah, from the gitscm.com, you can download the Git bash software. Git bash is helping the three options. One is you can use it as a SSH client. That is Vagrant SSH we are using. And the second, that Git bash, you can use it to run the Linux commands on the Windows operating system. That's purpose. Third option, the Git bash is Git software. If you'd like to run the Git commands, yes, you can use it. Yeah, on the Windows, how do we install the Git is that is Git bash. I'm talking to the Git tool. I'm not talking the repository. A repository will come back. First, a developer system on the developer. Each and every developer, he should able to run the Git commands. So if you would like to commit the files to the local repository, then he would like to push the files from the local to remote, or he would like to update from the remote to the local, then he should have the Git software. That software we are talking that. So on the Windows, Git bash. On the Linux, how do you do that is directly straightforward. Install Git. And how do you verify the Git installation is Git version command. And then you can check it with that help of the commands. Let me open the Git bash terminal. You know it already Git bash, right?
For Vagrant, we installed. Are we going to use the same GitLab?
Sorry, I didn't get that. You?
No, you can use.
Well, installing the for launching the Vagrant, we used Git bash.
Yes.
Are we going to use the same Git bash?
Yes, the same one. No issues. You can use the same one. Same Git bash itself. There is no difference at all. Okay, let me show this. Yeah, so if you go to the gitscm.com, yeah, so download for Windows. So maybe like 2 months back you were doing that. Maybe you got it latest update. But other than that, you can use the same the Git software. No issues on that. Git bash, if it is already installed, you can use that as a Git software that. But if you like to update that, yes, you can find that, or you can check the current version. That is a 2.41 is available. And in your system, you can check it the Git version. So if it is latest is available, download the latest one and upgrade it. Yeah, so this is a 2.41 which is available. You can download it. Let me check it in my system. So what is the Git bash which has been installed? Yes, this is my Git bash terminal, which I'm using this regularly. So how do we verify this the Git? Yeah, so in my system it is installed the 2.40, but if you go to the latest one, that is same version, right? Yeah, but 2.41 is available. Nothing, no issues. So you can use that 2.40 or a 2.4, no issues on it. Is it clear about that? The Git bash?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 2.40 is installed, and if you need that upgrading, then uninstall this one and download the latest one, 2.41, and you can check it there. When I'm good with us using this, no issues. So, but once the Git is installed, suppose you join to the project and they have given the laptop to you, and first, what is the software you need to install it? Yes, Git bash install it. That is Git software. So ask that before that, which version controlling tool they are using. If they are using the SVN and if you install the Git bash, then there is no meaning at all, right? Yeah, so if they are using the Git, yes, so you can download the Git bash and you can install in your laptop. Once that is installed, as a developer, what do we need to do that? Before starting the work, what are the settings that you need to have it? So Git configuration, we need to do that. 2 settings we need to do that. But what are those configurations is, this configuration next, the properties, whatever I'm going to talk it, the Git properties.
Username, password. Like.
Yeah, these properties we can say global properties. Global, that means that is not specific to the project. Maybe you are working for the different projects. But whether you are working for one project or multiple projects, you need to configure some global properties. What are the properties? About your name and about your email ID. You are working for any project, it has to be tracked about your name and about your email ID, right? Yeah, those 2 properties about username and email ID. So which we need to set up that. But how do you set up this is by using the git config -- global. These are all we say that global properties. And if you see this list of all these 2 properties, so git config -- global -- list. So first I'm just observing that. Yes, here you see those 2 properties, user.name and user.email ID. That means whenever you are committing the files from about a workspace to the Git repository, local repository, it is going to tracking about your username and about your email ID. Because every that's developer username and email ID has to be tracked, right, in his change. But how the Git is going to tracking that the username and email ID is, it is going to pick up from the system, the properties. So you need to configure this username and email ID. But in my system already these have been configured. But if you are working this the first time in your system, and if you verify this -" global and -" list, so you don't see these two properties. So what you need to do that is you need to set these two properties. How do you set the property? This is viewing the properties -" list. But how do we configure it is, so use the git config, git config -- global. So what is the property you would like to set up? That is username. So username. And what is the username I would like to set up? This is, okay, I'm the developer one, some XYZ or RNS tech or whatever we have, that username has to be set up that. So now I'm going to use it this one as a developer one. So user.name and user space and the username. Like that, let me define even the Linux operating system or Unix operating system or Mac operating system or Windows operating system, Git installation is different, but once Git is installed, these settings required. What are the settings? Git config -- global, user.name and user. One more property, email. So whatever that email ID you are going to have it, that email ID you need to configure it. Suppose here I'm going to define some example. This is email ID. So by configuring these two properties, what is that advantages is whenever you are committing, so which user is committing, what is his email ID, at what time he is committing that, everything that is Git is going to tracking the information. To track that information, these two properties you need to configure it. Is it clear about that configuration of the Git? Yeah, now it has been updated, my username and the email ID. And whenever I'm going to committing the files, it is going to update that with username and email ID. Yeah, this is the first setup that we need to do that. Is it clear about this global properties?
Yes, sir. Clear.
We are not talking that at a project level. Project level configuration properties will come back later. But this is about global, which can be applicable for multiple projects. Yes, whether I'm working the project 1 or project 2, but whenever I'm committing that, my username and email ID will be tracked. Yeah, so this is the first configuration which we need to do. So how do we view that list of all the properties global level is? The configuration properties git config -- global and -- list. The list is viewing that. Yes, it is going to list it, but important properties, username and user email ID. But if it is not defined, you need to set up that. How do you set up that? So user.name and value, user.email and value. They're all the properties we are setting. Okay, this is the first. Once the first install the Git, and if you have that any commit operation, if you'd like to perform it, then you need to set the username and email it. Otherwise, it doesn't accept it. Git commit whenever you are running, if it is not defined these two properties, it doesn't work it. You cannot commit the files from about your working directory to the local repository. If you would like to commit the files, you need to set these two properties. Fine. So that is the first configuration. So before going to understand some more points on the Git, how do we use the Git help options? Let me show that the Git help commands also. If you just use it like -- help option. Yeah, some important commands, regular commands, you can get it. Yes, cloning the repository, initializing the repository, adding, moving, removing, and diff commands, log commands, show commands, status commands. We'll come back all these. Yeah, if you'd like to know that, what all the commands are available in the Git, yes, sometimes it is not possible to remember all the things, right? Yes, if you'd like to refer that the command and command related help, then you can use the Git -help option. And one more option which we have this is Git is having guides also. You see that here in the Git help, if you observe that Git help -a, that means you can use it more details of it, or Git help -g. So G for that guides. Let me show that. How do it is kind of the manuals in the Linux system. We say that the manual, but here you can see that guides. Suppose one of the important thing what we can use it is one of the important guide is everyday. A useful minimum set of commands for everyday Git. As a developer, we are the developer, right? As a developer, if you're going to use the Git, and what are the everyday commands which we use in that? Yeah, if you use it, this the guide options. Suppose Git help and everyday. Then it helps that everyday everyday the Git commands in the browser. You can see this, that is in the browser itself, it is opened. Git everyday, the manual page. It is kind of the in the Linux manual command. How do we have that same manual option? Now, if you go to this, you need to have the patience looking that. Yeah, individual developer, yes, there are all the commands. Git init, git log, git switch or branch, git diff, git commit, restore or merge. Yeah, they're all commands we are talking that will come back. And with some examples also they have explained. Use a tarball as a starting point for a new repository. Yes, like if you have this already, the tar file, how do you extract it and how do you create as a repository? Or create a topic, a branch and a develop. So this use cases based, they have explained the commands. So you can refer it. But anyway, we are going to cover that all these commands, don't worry. Once we know the command, then go ahead and the one day just open it and refer it. Maybe if it is, if you find it any new command, then go ahead with referring this. Yeah, that is about help options. Git help -a, that is all the commands of the Git you can get it, or Git help, some like important commands which we use it, those commands you will get it. And if you'd like to know the guides, yes, you can apply that Git help -g, which is going to give that the guides, everyday guide, FAQs, and glossary, and tutorials you can access. So introduction to the Git, part 1, part 2, and workflows. Yeah, so an overview of the recommended workflows with the Git. Yeah, so whenever you have the time, so you can refer these guides. So that is the learning or improving that. But everything that is not possible to remember it. But whenever you are working, suddenly some help is required. Then you can use it, these guides or manuals. Whether the Mac operating system or whether the Windows operating system, Linux operating system, these commands are the universal. Is it clear about that? Help options?
Yes, sir.
Help, git config -global. And how do we install the Git? On the Windows, there is no specific. Git bash would have installed, you can directly use it. And if it's the Linux operating system, I'll come back. Anyway, we need to, this is just starting the day. So we need to use it so many times about that. This is setting up all these Gits. Yeah, are you clear at this point?
Yes, sir. As of now, good.
Yes, sir. Good.
Okay, good. Let me open the PPT. PPT is closed.
So by default, I don't see that particular file in my C program, sir. That help.
Sorry, by default, what you don't see?
Help document. The path which you pasted, right, sir?
Okay.
That is not available. So it is something that you have to download it.
That means what is the exception you are getting when are you running to Git help option?
So document file not found, but I can run the command git help every day.
Okay.
The error is that I'm getting the path. Okay, document file not found.
For me also same error came, sir. I also tried git config global list. I tried.
Yeah.
Fatal error is coming.
No. Git global list actually same error, but you have to set it. The once you set the values, you can able to see the global list.
See, if it is not working, then what you can do is, global list by default initially empty. Then you need to define the properties.
Yeah.
Suppose
Property.
if you are not able to run the command, some like command not found or some issues, then what you can do is go to that environment variables, edit system environment variables, and wherever the git is installed, you can check it like suppose where the git is installed, we just run it which git. You see that the path of this one, this is it is using that like something Mingwa software, that is 64-bit bin git. Or wherever, I mean, during the installation, you will be knowing about that, the path. Then what you can do is you can add that path to the path variable. Suppose, let me show that in my system. Where is that git? Is not available here. Let me go to the system level variables. Let me check it here. Background path, yes. So program files a git. So wherever you have installed the git, so make sure that it has been added to the path variable. Is it clear that point?
Yes, we have to set environment variable with the path location of Git where we need to install that.
Yeah, that is one thing. And another point is suppose, especially this everyday manual, if you are trying to access that, sometimes, I mean, that is on the basis of about your browser settings. So it is going to help in that. If the browser is not identified, then it doesn't open in the browser. It is going to show that in the command line itself. So if you say this exact error, then I can give the clarity.
Sir, I found looks like some the path is not properly showing. It is just showing C colon, but when you have to open it, we have to open file colon // Then I just manually went to that path and able to open that file.
Okay, that means if you have those any like spaces in the directories,
okay, maybe
then it is going to give the problem.
I just pasted link. So if we use like this, we can able to open like file colon //
Yes.
So the output was showing just C colon /, but I just added file colon // and I'm able to open it.
Okay, yeah. So here you see this some space is there. This is a problem in the Windows. So there's a program space files are there, right? That space, just use it double quotation, the complete path given that whenever you are given the path. So try to give the complete path in the double quotation. Or you need to use it escape characters. So there's a path issue. Yeah, good. So shall I continue to the next one? Is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we understand that the importance of the version controlling tool, why do we need it, and as well as we are understanding about what are the different tools are available in the market as per the architecture point of view. And final conclusion is SVN and Git. SVN is a client and server architecture and Git is a distributed architecture. So Git is advanced and latest one. No one is going to use the client and server architecture models in the current market. They're all going thus vanish. So recommended is a distributed, but a distributed one of the important is a Git. But Git we have this repository side, the separate softwares, and developer side separate software. So now we are talking the Git at a developer side. So if you have the Windows or the Linux operating system, and if you'd like to work as a developer, the Git commands, we should know it. Yes, that is, we are starting. And Git has to be installed first on the developer system. But how do we set up is on the base of the Windows or Unix operating system. If it is the Unix or Linux based, install Git directly straightforward. Or if it is the Mac operating system, which you can use it in the brew command, brew with the package manager, you can install the Git. Yeah, so that is a Git and Git installation verification. And how do we use the Git help? That is a manual of the Git. So -G, -A, and yes, you can use it to particular guides, how to get it. Yes, Git help with guides. But guides normally, yes, if it is the Windows, we get help information in the browser. And if it is the Linux system, then in the command prompt, we get the help information. Yeah, that is on the base of the browser support. We'll see that the information. And then Git settings. Yes, author and email has to be set up that. So by default, git config -- global list is not configured, but you need to define about your username and email ID with this configuration list. So that is about the overall settings of the Git getting ready. Now let me talk at this one point. So before talking about the remote repositories and all the stuff, so always remember this diagram. Whenever we are going to talk with the Git, yes, you need to have the developer point of view, two directories. One is working copy and second one is repository, local repository. And the remote repository. Remote repository is about whenever we integrate the local one with the remote, that is GitHub, GitLab. So if you are using these things, then we say that this is a remote repository. But for the time, we are talking this on the developer system itself. So on the developer system, Git we have set up that and ready. Now let's talk it. I will talk it the remote repository later. First, let's talk it. How do I create a local repository? And how do you understand that? The difference between the local repository and is it working copy? So how do we differentiate it working copy and local repository? We are seeing this on the developer same system, working copy and local repository, but how do we differentiate it? Yeah, to understand that file system, what I do is I go for that creating one local repository. Yes, we can directly create local repositories, no issues. So let me go to my Windows system. This is my Windows system. I'm using that Git bash terminal. Or you can open this any browser, the Windows Explorer also, no issues. So what I do is, so I go to that some D drive and I will use it workspace directory. And here, let me create it already. We were created batch 48. Yes, the directory I have. Okay, I'm going to use this directory to perform some Git operations. Yeah, I'll just create one directory here. That is a Git. Okay, initially Vagrant we are working this right here. Okay, good. Yeah, so Git directory I have created. And let me open the Git bash terminal from here. Yeah, I have chosen this directory to perform all the Git related activities. So no files here. Now I'm going to start that. Okay, as I join to the project, I need to start working on the project. But I'm not, this is a new project. So I need to start the new project. Can I start the new project? Yes, let's create it one directory. I'm just saying this, that is as a project. The project directory has been created, and let me go to this project directory. But is it a normal directory or is it a Git repository directory? This project folder, whatever we have created, is it a Git repository or is it a normal working directory?
It is a Git directory.
No, by giving the just Git name, this is not like this
Local.
is just directory name, right?
Yes,
It
correct.
opened from Git terminal.
No, Git bash I have opened, but this is just terminal I'm using now.
Okay.
I'm just using the terminal to run the commands, that's all. So now this project folder is just empty folder, normal file folder
Yes.
on the Windows system. So if you see this, we don't have any files. But I would like to use this one as a Git repository, that is a local repository. How do I create a repository? So if I'm having any directory, that's normal directory, file system directory, the Windows file system directory. Now, but I would like to use this directory as a Git repository. How do I use it? How do I create a Git repository? So what is the command is git init. Go to the particular directory, which directory that you want to create a repository, go to the directory and run the git init command. Now you see this, what is the message which is showing? This is initialize the empty git repository. So this is the location of it. So location is project folder. Within that, now do you see this any files? No, we don't see any files. But hidden directory, what is the directory you see? This is .git. Now if you go to any folder and if you see this any .git folder, that directory we can say this is a Git repository directory. How do we say this, the Git repository? If any folder which contains the .git folder, that folder we can say that is a repository. This is a local repository. Don't forget about that remote repository. Remote repository I'll come back later. That's tomorrow. Today we're talking this on the developer system. So now project is the Git version copy or not? Now that is Git repository or not? Project folder.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is showing master. Yes.
Yes, it is showing that even the branch name also. Yes, you see that this is a default branch. Branch concepts I'll come back later. But if you go to this any folder and if you see the .git folder, that folder we can say this is the Git version or Git repository. Suppose if I go back to this one folder, now I am in this Git folder. So is it a repository or is it a normal folder?
Normal folder, sir.
It is a normal folder. Why it is normal folder? We don't see any .git folder. It is not Git version. So this is a normal folder. On the file system, how do we have the folder? That is a file system. But if I go to the project, is it a Git repository or not?
Yes, sir.
This is a Git repository. How do you say that that is a Git repository? .git folder. So this folder contains complete Git database files. Suppose if you go to this directory, so here you see the some configuration files, hooks, information, object different. These are all the files which belong to the Git repository. So no need to remember, no need to reflect. So forget about it. But if you see this in the folder, .git folder, yes, the .git folder we can say that is a repository. which contains all the configuration files of the Git. Yes, whenever we are doing that commit is nothing but that is local files which will be saved into this Git database. Now this .git we can say database, which is going to track it all the files with versioning options and who has committed, when he has committed, everything it is going to track, and it is storing this in the .git folder. .git folder is about our local repository. But what is my workspace? So this project, what all the directory we are viewing that. Now here you don't see any files, right? This is my working copy. But what is my local repository? This is my local repository. Are you clear about this point? Suppose if I create any file here, suppose touch something, I'm going to create a Docker file. This Docker file, is it available now in the workspace or is it in the local repository?
Local repository.
No, we didn't commit it, right? That is in the workspace.
Yes, sir, sorry.
First, my file, whatever we are creating, that is in the workspace. But from the workspace, but it is not updated. I mean, is it updated to the repository? Local repository? No, it is not updated. It is just I have created in my workspace. As now that file is available in. So I have this working copy and I have created first any files we are creating or modifying, that we do this in the working copy. Working copy is my directory. But once my files are ready and if I'm going to do the commit, what's going to happen that all these files that will be stored in the local repository. But where is the local repository? Where is that local repository? That is a .git folder. So once the .git folder is available and if I'm doing the git push operations, then the .git folder, what are the files we have, that files which will be updated to the remote repository. That is later we'll talk it. But first understand on the developer system, how do you differentiate it? The working copy and the local repository. So if you go to the directory and if you just run it, if I just run it LL directory and what are the files you see that's in the directory, these are all my working copy files. But where is it my the Git repository or not? Yes, is it having the Git repository or not? If you see the .git folder in that folder, yes, in this project folder we have the .git. Now this is the repository. Are you clear about that working directory and repository understanding local repository?
Yes, sir.
Suppose if you have this already existing directory, suppose let me go back to that. Yes, in the batch 48, we have some other directories. Okay, something, let me take it. Yeah, this is the directory. Now, if I go to the server directory, is it normal directory or is it a Git version directory?
It's normal directory.
So this is a normal directory itself. But can I convert this one as a version directory? Git repository?
Yes, sir. Git init.
Yes, we can convert that existing project or existing folder also we can convert as a Git repository, or you can start from scratch. That is, take the empty directory and you can create like repositories also. So what is the command? All these operation git init. Now this server directory. Yes, it is having the files. Yeah, they're all the files which are available. That is my working copy. But is it having the repository? Yes, that is having the repository, that is .git. So empty directory you can create as a repository, Or if you have this existing project, that existing project you can convert as a Git repository. What is the command for it? What is the
Git
command for
init
it?
initialization. Git
Git init.
Init.
Yeah, but it is going to create a local repository or a remote repository?
Local.
Local repository. And in this directory, what are the files you see that? This is my working directory. I can edit these files and I can modify the files. But after modifying the files, I need to commit to the local repository. How do we commit to the local repository? That will come back later. That's we have some flow of execution to understand it. That is, I'll conclude tomorrow. But today, just understand that, yes. So once if you are working this in the developer system, you will be having this so many directories. But some directories are the normal directories, some directories are the repository directories. But which one is my Git repository? Which one is my normal directory? How do you classify that? Yeah, if you go to the particular directory and if you see the .git folder, that is a Git repository. But if you go to the particular folder and if you don't see the .git folder, that's normal directory. Yeah, working copy and local repository, understanding that. Yeah, so you can create a new directories from the scratch repository, or if you have this existing project, you can convert as a Git repository by using the Git init. But Git init is going to create a local repository. And tomorrow we'll start about that remote repository. That is GitHub will take it, and how to create an account and how to create a remote repository. And once remote repository is available, that's how do we get into that local system, that is developer system. Then how do we work with the working copy, then working copy to the local, then local to the remote, we will understand that. Yeah, are you clear about these points today?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Perfect, sir. Yeah, perfect as of now.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, first, if you are good with these technologies and understanding that what exactly happening there, says why, what is this directory, what is this local repository, what is the remote repository, then whenever we are working with the Git commands, that is Git commit, what is happening in the background, Git push, what is happening in the background, Git pull, what is happening in the background, we can easily understand it. Yeah, that is, anyway, we'll come back one by one understanding that. That's, we'll see that. Yeah. So that's all from my side for today, understanding that. On the Windows side, how to install, or even on the Linux also, you can try to practice it. Take that's one easy to instance and go for that install Git, and you can check with that. Yeah, I mean the Git help commands and the Git the init commands to create a local repositories, and as well as the Git configuration. That is a local, I mean, the username and email ID configurations. Even if you don't configure it also, no issues. But whenever you are committing, it is going to stop you. You are committing is nothing but the Git is expecting those two properties, user.name and user.email ID. Yeah, so that's all from my side for today. So I'll meet tomorrow and we'll continue. The next concept is working with the remote repository. Yeah, that is GitHub will take it. And how to create a repository in the GitHub. Then once the remote repository is available as a developer, how do we get that remote repository to the local system? That is Windows system. And once this remote repository is available in the local, then how do you work with that? About your working copy to the local to GitHub. GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or AWS code commit, whatever, doesn't matter that. Whether that is about your on-premises, the Git repository, doesn't matter that. They're all about your URLs and the credentials, and with the network should be enabled. Yeah, this will work with tomorrow. Yeah, thank you. That's all from my side. Any queries before going to wind up today?
Yes, sir. All good. Looks good.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, so just which we understand from the scratch, create a repository from the blank state and apply the Git init. And existing project, yes, take it any one of the existing project and go to the directory and run the Git init command. But tomorrow, a remote repository, how do we get into that local repository? That is, we will talk it with the GitHub. Good, thank you. I'm going to log off for today.